Is the Canon C50 an FX3 killer? Canon has entered the chat. We're testing a new lens, guys. This is the Laowa 10mm autofocus. It's pretty cool. I honestly feel like I'm back in 2020, 2021 when the A7S III dropped, when the Canon R5 dropped. When that first image that Canon posted in the lead up to this release came out, I was instantly so excited. I had a feeling that Canon had something up its sleeve. I had no idea that they were going to knock it out of the park the way that they did. Canon just announced the C50, and I could not be happier. And yes, that is coming from a Sony FX3 user. So in case you missed it, it is an FX3 style body camera with an XLR top handle, 7K up to 60 FPS, open gate recording, 4K 120 frames per second, internal RAW recording, the list goes on. It took Canon a little bit to figure it out, but they've finally produced something that the people actually want. I think one issue that people haven't discussed with Canon's current offerings in the C70 and the C80 is that those form factors aren't really super ergonomic. They're very top heavy. They're very 1DX style. Yes, you can get a bigger battery on there, but they're not really a box style cinema camera like the Sony FX6 or the Canon C400. And so you end up with a very awkward form factor. And I think one of the reasons why the FX3 has been as popular as it is because of how well it fits into a bag, how well it integrates into a travel setup, how well it works with solo shooters. Canon copying Sony's homework, I don't think is a bad thing. I think that Sony really was ahead of its time when it dropped the FX3. They understood the progression of the modern filmmaker, meaning that they understood that a lot of people were coming from photo-centric cameras that had video features and then would upgrade to a more video-centric photo camera. And so having a video-centric camera in a mirrorless style body was just a huge draw for a lot of people and why the FX3 was so popular. And so Canon following that trend and understanding why a camera like the FX3 is so popular, I think is a really big deal and is why people are really stoked about this camera. They've kind of taken the foundation that Sony's built and they've improved upon it. They've improved upon the XLR top handle. Making it more of a D-style handle is going to improve upon the stability and sturdiness of it. Adding a record button is a huge deal. Adding a zoom rocker as well is going to be amazing for a lot of people who are using it with power zoom lenses. Open gate recording is a huge draw as affordable anamorphic lenses are becoming more and more popular, and shooting for various aspect ratios is becoming more and more popular into people's workflows. A huge trend that a lot of more traditional filmmakers who work in more traditional workflows are a bit hesitant to acknowledge is the amount of amazing, groundbreaking work that is living primarily on social media. On Instagram, especially, is where you can find some of the coolest cinematography and editing coming from a lot of really awesome creators. And these filmmakers are not using traditional cinema cameras. They're using cameras like the FX3 because they are solo shooters. They're working on smaller crews. And so Canon dropping something that really caters to this market, I think, is a really big deal. Having that dual recording mode where you're able to have a 16:9 image and then take a 9:16 crop out of it is really, really cool. Obviously, they kind of dropped the ball on it. They should have done that with the open gate mode, but hopefully they can release that in a future firmware update. The most exciting thing about the Canon C50 is the new normal that has been set for the industry. If another brand wants to release an FX3 style camera, it's going to have to compete on this level. It's going to have higher than 4K recording formats, high frame rates, global shutter, 32-bit float audio, open gate recording. It's going to have to do a bit more. And I think that just benefits everybody. And not only that, it's going to have to do it at a great price. The fact that this camera is under $4,000 and is actually cheaper than an FX3, I think is a huge reason why people are saying that this camera is an FX3 killer. As an FX3 user, do I think that the Canon C50 is an FX3 killer? I think that for a lot of people, the fact that the specs on paper just outperform the FX3 and it comes in at a cheaper, if not the same price point, for a lot of people who aren't already invested into a brand's ecosystem, is going to make them choose Canon over Sony. The reason why I personally don't think it is an outright FX3 killer is the fact that the Canon C50 does not have IBIS. The reason why I personally choose the FX3 over the FX6 in a lot of situations is because the IBIS in this camera really is a huge benefit when you're shooting handheld footage with it. When you don't have a tripod, when you don't want to have a gimbal, you can get incredible results from the FX3 because of that IBIS. The lack of IBIS combined with the lighter weight form factor becomes a lot more of an issue than it does in FX6 or a C400, where because the camera is a little bit bigger, the way you grip it, the way you're able to stabilize it, you don't need the IBIS as much. I definitely have to give the Canon C50 a bit of credit because it does have a pretty fast readout speed. It's not as good as the FX3 or the FX6, so you are gonna notice the rolling shutter a little bit more than those cameras. And the fact that it also doesn't have IBIS is just a bit of a letdown. And for some people who really rely upon IBIS, like I do, it's gonna be a factor in terms of you not necessarily feeling like it's going to be the best camera to choose for a particular situation. The reason that lack of IBIS isn't as much of an issue in RED cameras or the FX6 or other bigger cinema style camera bodies is because you're able to rig those cameras up. You can add some weight to it. If you have an unstabilized camera with micro jitters combined with a slower readout, you're really going to get a jello-y, bad looking image. Whereas if you have a heavier body with a faster readout, those micro jitters don't play as much of a factor. The one area that Canon really needs to step up their game in is the IBIS department. I'm not gonna name any names, but there's a few content creators who shoot on Canon cameras with the electronic stabilization, and the wobbly corners and the way that that stabilization works is very unappealing to me. I really hate it, and is a huge reason why I kind of have stayed away from Canon cameras up until this point. And so I'm a little disappointed that they haven't stepped up their game in the IBIS department. If Canon actually wants to kill the FX3 for good, they need to start dropping cameras with great IBIS, because it is just an absolute game changer, especially when you're using cinema lenses. Not every camera has stabilization, and there are just an increasing number of solo operators, handheld shooters, travel filmmakers who really value that feature. So that's my thoughts. I'm really stoked for this camera. I think it's incredible news if you're already in the Canon ecosystem. If you're not invested in a particular brand, I think that Canon is an amazing option for you at this point, especially considering their lens lineup. I think Canon absolutely crushes it when it comes to their lenses. The amount of times on jobs I see Sony bodies with Canon lenses is by no mistake. Canon creates incredible glass. I think if you're looking to get invested into a brand, the C50 is just an amazing gateway into what Canon is doing. And I think they're on a really good roll right now, which is certainly going to put a lot of pressure onto Sony. For the last 5 years, Sony has really been the best option for so many people. And I think with releases like this, we could start to see that change. And so I'm just really excited to see what comes out of this. I'm excited to see what people create, and I'm excited to hear from you guys and hear your reactions. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of the Canon C50. Are you gonna buy one? Is it an FX3 killer? Please give this video a like. Consider subscribing if you'd like to see more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.